You haven't changed a thing. Same food, same habits. Honestly, you might be trying harder than you used to, and yet there it is. This weight around your middle that showed up like it signed a lease and moved in without asking. And somewhere along the way, somebody told you the answer was to eat less. And while you're at it, add some extra cardio on there. Here's what I need you to hear today. This is not just a calorie problem. It's not a willpower problem, and it's definitely not a you problem. Something real is happening in your body, something hormonal, something measurable. And once you understand what it is, this stops feeling like a personal failure and it starts feeling like information you can actually work with. So today will be what is really going on with the belly weight in perimenopause, why the calorie math you were taught doesn't tell the whole story, what your labs may be missing, and what actually helps. No shame, no restriction, and no declaring war on carbohydrates. I'm Stephanie. I'm a nurse, a dietitian, a certified diabetes care and education specialist, and I help women untangle exactly this. I'm also living it myself at 51 years old, so stick with me. Let's start with the part that surprises almost everyone. And I want to be really precise here because you deserve the honest version, not the tidy version. Two things are happening at once, and they're both true. One, some of the weight change in midlife is tied to aging in general. It's gradual. It happens to men too. Two, the menopause transition is doing its own thing on top of that, where the weight goes, what happens to your muscle, and how your body handles insulin. So when you say, I've always carried weight on my hips and suddenly it's all in my stomach, you're not imagining that. You are describing one of the most well-documented changes of this whole transition. Your body didn't get worse at its job. It changed where it stores things. And nobody warned you. That's the part that makes me crazy. So why does this happen? Think of estrogen as your body's filing system for fat. For most of your adult life, estrogen has been telling your body, store this down here in the hips, thighs. That lower body pattern, a lot of us know very well. As estrogen declines in perimenopause, that instruction, it gets quieter. And when the filing instruction goes quiet, your body starts defaulting to a different storage spot, your abdomen. Same body, same you, new filing system. And this is not your body malfunctioning. This is your body responding exactly the way it's designed to when a hormone changes. It is doing what it was told. The instructions, they just changed. Now, here's where it gets interesting and where it stops being about how your genes fit. The fat that shows up around your middle is not all the same. Some of it sits just under the skin, and some of it is what we call visceral fat. Visceral fat sits deeper, packed in around your organs. And visceral fat is not a quiet house guest. It is metabolically active. And all that means in plain English is that this fat is not just sitting there in storage like a sweater in a drawer. It's busy, and it acts almost like an organ, making and sending out its own chemical signals all day long. And some of those signals, they're inflammatory. And those signals can make your cells less responsive to insulin. Do you see the loop forming? Less estrogen can mean more belly fat. More belly fat can mean more inflammation. More inflammation can mean more insulin resistance, and more insulin resistance makes it easier to store more belly fat. That's the cycle. And you have been standing in the middle of it, being told to just eat a salad. This is why eat less, move more makes me genuinely frustrated for midlife women. It's not that eating well doesn't matter. It matters. It matters enormously. It's that the advice completely ignores the machinery that is actually running the show. And now I want to say something clearly, because I don't want to accidentally talk you out of the very thing you might need to look into. Insulin resistance during this transition is common. It's not rare. It's not exotic. It's not something that only happens to other people. And if you have a family history of type 2 diabetes, or you had a gestational diabetes when you were pregnant, or you have PCOS, then you're not starting from neutral. You're starting with a head start you didn't ask for. Here's the part almost nobody tells women, and it's the reason I wanted to make this video. The labs you get at your annual physical are usually fasting glucose and A1C, and those are very useful. You need those, but they're often the last things to move because your pancreas is a hard worker. When your cells stop responding to insulin well, your pancreas doesn't send up a flare. It just quietly makes more insulin and more. And it can keep your glucose looking absolutely beautiful on paper for years while it does this. So your labs come back normal and you get told everything is fine and you go home, believing the problem must be you. Normal glucose is not the same as nothing happening. It can mean your body is compensating really well, quietly in the background for a very long time. So if what I'm describing sounds like your life, bring it up with your provider and consider asking for a fasting insulin. Not instead of your glucose or your A1C. You need those. You want this alongside of them. A fasting insulin is not a standalone diagnosis, but it may add useful context about whether your body is working harder to hold the line, sometimes before your glucose ever moves. And that is the whole ball game early, while there is still room to work with, because everything I'm about to tell you, the muscle, the protein, the walking, the sleep, all of it works so much better when we catch this early than when we're chasing a number that has already climbed. Nobody hands you a medal for finding out late. Also worth asking, what have my numbers been doing over time? Not just, is today's number in range? The trend tells you more than the snapshot. And say your family history out loud. Don't assume it's in the chart. And if your provider says no to the fasting insulin, that's okay. Ask them why and ask what they would like to keep an eye on instead. It's a good conversation either way. You're not being difficult. You are being a good historian and advocate of your own body. I'm not telling you that you have insulin resistance. I genuinely cannot know that from here. What I am telling you is that this is common enough and quiet enough that it deserves an actual look instead of a wave off. There's one more player, and this one might be the most important thing I say today. Muscle. We start losing muscle mass earlier than anyone tells us, and it picks up speed through the menopause transition. And unless you are actively doing something about it, that decline just keeps going. Your muscle is one of the biggest places glucose goes to be used and stored. When you eat carbohydrates, your body breaks them down to glucose, and your muscle is the storage closet. Big storage closet, plenty of room, no problem. Small storage closet, that glucose has nowhere good to go, so it hangs around in your bloodstream longer. Your insulin has to work harder, and insulin's whole job is storage. So when we lose muscle, we're not just losing strength, we are losing space. We're shrinking the closet. And unlike that closet in your hallway that we all swear we're gonna organize someday, this is one you can genuinely do something about. Quick one, but it matters. Perimenopause loves to wreck your sleep. Night sweats, 3 a.m., wake ups, the whole delightful package. And poor sleep can raise cortisol, your stress hormone. Cortisol raises blood sugar, and cortisol also happens to encourage fat storage. Where? Your abdomen. So if you've been lying awake at 3 a.m. and then feeling like your body is fighting you all day, those two things are related. You are not being dramatic. You are being physiological. Which is why sleep is not a nice to have in midlife, it's a part of your plan. So, okay, deep breath. Here's the part I actually love because everything I just told you points to real doable answers, not restriction, not punishment, just working with your body instead of against it. 1, build the closet back. Muscle, lift something heavy. Strength training, 2 to 3 times a week. This is the single highest leverage thing on this list. More muscle means more glucose storage, means better insulin sensitivity. You don't need a gym membership or a personality transplant. You need resistance consistently. Bands, dumbbells, your own body weight. Start where you are. 2, protein at every meal. Protein helps blunt that blood sugar spike. It keeps you full, and critically, it gives your body the raw material to actually build that muscle we just talked about. All the lifting in the world won't help you if there is nothing to build with. If you take one thing from this video, protein. 3, don't cut all your carbs. Carbs are not the enemy. They were never the enemy. You do not have to eliminate them to improve insulin sensitivity. Cutting them all out can just make you tired, very miserable, and eventually lead to a 9 p.m. cracker situation we have all lived through. Instead, pair your carbs with protein. Lean toward the fiber-rich carbs and let them do their job. 4, walk after you eat. 10 minutes, that's it. Your muscles pull glucose out of your bloodstream when they're working. It's one of the highest return, lowest effort things you can do, and it costs you nothing but your shoes. 5, protect your sleep like it's a prescription, because functionally it is. Whew, it really is. So let's bring this home. Your belly weight in perimenopause, it's not evidence that you got lazy. It's not evidence that you lost your discipline. It's not evidence that you are doing anything wrong. It is evidence that your estrogen shifted, your fat storage pattern followed, your muscle needs your attention, your insulin may be working harder than anyone has checked, and your body is asking for something different than what it needed years ago. That's it. That's the whole scandal. And I want you to hear this from someone who is both a clinician and a woman going through this herself. You are not failing. You never were. You were just never given the actual information. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be more consistent. Pick one thing from that list. 1, start there this week. That is how this actually works. Build habits. You have totally got this, even if it doesn't seem like you do right now. If this was helpful, I have a free guide linked below that walks you through the early signs your blood sugar is shifting. Grab it, it's yours, and subscribe, because this is exactly what I talk about here every week. I hope to see you in the next video.